Thank you everyone for joining the call. I hope that you guys think of some questions that may help you decide that this might be something that you're interested in pursuing. And then I hope I also see some of your faces in the future. As Andrew mentioned, I am in Costa Rica. I'm in Costa Rica now. We are a morning country, so it is dark outside, but it is a beautiful rainy season, which means it's super green. Also, you would see me in Portugal if a Portugal retreat is near and dear to you as well. And Mexico. So those are our 3 countries that we hold these retreats in. And even Mexico, I love to go to all of our spaces, and care team and medicine teams are really incredible. I'm so proud of everyone that we work with, including these 3 beautiful humans on the phone right now. Thank you, thank you. Your love, your support, your energy, your dedication. I am open to all questions. I appreciate Andra keeping the sacred space, and I also can handle any type of questions. And so whatever is on your mind or on your heart, I am here to answer. Thank you, thank you. As Andra mentioned, our retreats are 7 days and 6 nights. They include 3 plant medicine ceremonies if we're talking about ayahuasca. And so when people arrive in the space, they meet our care team. I mentioned that word a moment ago. Our care team is our front of house team. I'm part of the care team. It's the group of people that help people prepare for ceremony, as well as process ceremony, and then integrate it into our lives. And so the difference between, 5 years from now saying, oh yeah, I did ayahuasca once, and saying, I did ayahuasca and it changed my life, is that integration piece. And so that's what our care team works on. We hold you the entire retreat week. And then our medicine team is our beautiful and powerful, incredible humans that sit in the ceremony space with you. We host traditional ayahuasca ceremonies, which means that they're powerful and they're strong, a small group size. And then our care team helps the next day to, again, help the processing, help you regulate your central nervous system, and prepare you to sit again with the medicine. So on the first day, everybody arrives and meets the other retreat attendees. And we have a maximum of 11 people. And so we do small group sizes here at Behold. For me and for everyone, it's really important that group small size for that facilitator to human ratio. It's one of the smallest in the world, if not the smallest in the world, meaning for every 1 guest, there are facilitators to help support you. We sit in ceremony on the 2nd day and the 3rd day, and then we take a break. On that break, we will do something that will connect us maybe to nature, such as doing a temazcal, a sweat lodge. I can answer questions about that if anyone has one. Again, really integrating the medicine into our daily life. And then on the 4th night, we sit again. And so 2 ceremonies and then a break. And then we sit in ceremony again. And then the last full day is a day where we're really integrating the work, where we're balancing, making plans for what are we committing to changing in our life. And then the final day, we say goodbye. A lot of people understand the importance of really taking time for themselves. And so they may stay in country for a few days afterwards to really integrate their experience. And then we believe people are set off very well to head home with beautiful tools and practices to continue on. Is there any specific questions within that retreat experience that I could answer for anybody? Or in the ceremony space as well? Okay. Yeah, so I'll start, and then I think Daniel can elaborate as well. I wholeheartedly believe and know individually, experientially, in all of the ways that musical is critical. In all locations, in every ceremony, it's live music. It even sounds funny to say live music because it sounds like a performance, and it's not a performance. And I don't have any judgment for any spaces that has a playlist, but ours is music the entire time. And then depending on the different tradition, The one in Costa Rica, for example, will have icaros as well as instruments. So guitars and flutes and even a violin, really incredible vibrations and frequencies that come in. To me, the medicine and the vibrations and the frequency work hand in hand, and the music is a critical component to the ceremonies. How the medicine is made, even it takes up to 5 days of cooking the medicine down, and the medicine man will sing to it. They're icaros, which I'll talk about in a second, for 5 days, the entire 5 times. And what they're doing is putting that vibration into the music. And then in ceremony, as they're opening up ceremony, they'll put that vibration into the medicine as well. And then as you drink it, you can potentially feel the vibrations in your body. And that's how one of the ways in which ayahuasca works with us is through the vibrations and the music. Icaros are a song and a vocalization. In fact, I'm going to pass this over to Daniel in just a moment. It's a way in which enlivens the medicine to start working within our system. Some things I'll start out by saying, this will make more sense after ceremony. And the music is one of them. To talk about frequency and vibration and the movement of the medicine. But yes, absolutely. Music is a huge part of every ceremony. Daniel, did you want to add anything about the music?
Sure, and we can dig into Ernest's question as well. So,
okay.
I don't hold judgment about people who play electronic music, but I would never, ever, ever sit in a ceremony where electronic music was being played. When you bring a digital interface into the space, it changes the dynamic, and you're entering a space that's the purest of pure. So small little things that there's what we can't help but bring into the space, and often that's what we're going in to rid ourselves of, but there's what we can control. And one of those things is electric interfaces. And when you bring that digital energy in there, I can't quite explain it, but there's something that's off, right? Almost like playing like heavy metal music for your grandma. It's something off about that. So I look at music in the ceremonial space as either like ambient and medicine music, meaning music that might be someone strumming on a guitar to create a vibe, a campfire vibe. But more importantly, to double back on what Sarah said, we're dealing with the sacred music of the Icaro, which are songs written by ayahuasca through people. And many Icaros are in Spanish or Quechua or like an ancient South American language, and you'll be listening to an Icaro and you could fully understand the depth of what's being said and have zero idea of what the language is. I would go as far as to say that not just with ayahuasca, but with any sacred medicine held in a ceremonial context, the primary tool of the curandero or the shaman ayahuasquero is sound. It's the primary way to cultivate and manifest the energy of ayahuasca. They're Icaros so strong, you can't even stand inside them without purging, right? They're Icaros so soft that no heaviness in your heart could like live through that. So Icaros, much like incense, like sage and copal, create an energy dynamic that's loving, but also inhospitable to certain types of energy. And they create an energetic gateway that you can expel things from your system. I've heard certain Icaros before and had to purge immediately. Just the second the tonality comes in. That might be easier to understand after you've gone through a process like that. But hopefully that answers the question.
Yeah.
I'll elaborate. Question. I'm sorry, after you.
That's okay. I'll elaborate a bit just because really I love this question because it's one of the most important things that maybe the second most important part of the ceremony is the music. When we are participating in ayahuasca, receiving or participating with ayahuasca, one of the purposes is to help us rewire our brain to maybe perhaps change the way in which we think. I've heard this example of you can imagine a mountain and the first time you sled down, you make a groove. And then the second time you maybe make another groove, and the third. And by about the 100th time that you go down, those grooves are so thick, it's hard to get out of them. If you apply that to the way in which we think, we have continued thoughts over and over. And what ayahuasca can do and other medicines such as is putting a fresh layer of snow, and now you get to make that groove again. And so how this relates to the music is generally in most regular songs, if we're listening, in about 45 seconds, we could tell what is going to be the next beat. Our mind is very good at recognizing patterns. Some of these Icaros won't follow that pattern. And sometimes it might even sound a bit dissonant. But what it's doing in that dissonance, I say, we're working on the way in which my mind is wired. Thank you.
Mm.
Even if that Icaros is not where I expect it to go in dissonance. And so another beauty of the Icaros. I'm glad Daniel mentioned it. It came into my mind about the purging. Every once in a while, a song will come on and one person will purge. We can talk about purging in a minute, and then another, and then another. And I'll look at the medicine man and later say, you'll go, that was the cleaning song. And so there is something quite incredible about the vibrations that happen that allow for the energy to flow and then flow out as well. But thank you for the question.
Thank you.
And I actually, on the topic of purging, I do see a question from Andrea. I think concerned about the statement Daniel made about the instant purge. So maybe we want to just quickly elaborate on her question before we move on to the next ones.
Could you read exactly how it was worded, please?
She said, she's asking, what do you mean by purging instantly? So when you said the Icaros was playing and you came into the space, it's kind of an instant purge. Maybe you want to elaborate just a little bit.
There's typically, in almost every case with medicine ceremonies, an instant purge still gives one the time to grab their bucket, pull their hair back, right? And if it doesn't, more power to you. But that's extremely rare. So purging is a multifaceted thing. Purging occurs when your soul hits a vibrational level that's inhospitable to low vibrational energy. It's not the side effect or the byproduct of an experience like it would be if you drank too much alcohol or you hit your head or you were exhausted and dehydrated. And it makes sense biologically where people have this imprint on themselves, so there's an aversion to purging. It makes sense. We're human beings, we're supposed to on all levels have an aversion to purging. So this is something just remarkably different. You know, we vibrate here, ayahuasca vibrates way above the screen. And when you start to hit that lower vibrational place, the place of lower density, that's also like, remember the old, like you pluck an old car antenna and go wah, 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 wah. In that space is where we can let things go. And when we go to that lower density, this is typically where purging occurs. Purging of mind, body, and spirit. A material separation of what is not you from you. So often this can be elicited by different stages and circumstances and patterns that you're having yourself. Often in the beginning with our ayahuasca, it's commonly is one of the reasons why ayahuasca is so magical. It has its own innate barriers to entry. Like nobody even considers going to ayahuasca for fun because ayahuasca tells you so clearly not to do that through its particular attributes. So there's the purging of us getting into the vibrational balance with the medicine, and then there are higher levels of purging that you can go through. And I'll end it with this. The most blessed thing about purging is actually getting to materially come into the face-to-face reality of surrender. Because it's the literal physical action of letting go. And there's not a lot of great places in life to do that. Like this call would not be a great place to purge, right? Like it's not the right place and it's not the right time to do that. But when you take that time, you build up all these energies through life, and it's time to actually materially separate from those things and remove from you what is not you. Purging is the most cathartic physical action. Purging with ayahuasca, or we would call getting well. In my lifetime, it is the most cathartic physical action that one could possibly undertake. And whatever is in second place is so far away, I don't even know what that is. Hopefully that answers your question. My pleasure.
Elaborate. Yeah, I'll elaborate again a little bit. I love the way in which, can you hear me?
Yeah. We do also have quite a few questions stacking up. So, but yeah, Andrea says thank you. So I think she's complete on that purging question. It is very important, but I do want to get to Ernest's question as well, which is I will divide into two questions. The The first question being, do couples stay together during the ceremony, and what does that setup look like? And the second, but kind of connected question is, how would it work if they attend as a group of 6 or 7 people at one time, I guess?
I'll take that question if that's okay.
Perfect. Thank you.
So I can tell you how we do things, Ernest, and just what I would recommend as a friend, even if it's not us. Because if you were to go the other way, it's not necessarily bad. But I've been creating boundaries around ayahuasca for 1,000,000 years, so for whatever that's worth, right? So first of all, when you're thinking about coming with anybody, what I strongly recommend is you think into yourself is, would each one of these participants have made it to this medicine on a long enough timeline under the right circumstances, with or without each other, with or without the old? Is there an innate thing that exists in each person that they have their own personal calling? It's never going to be dead on equivalent, but John Doe can't drag Jane Doe, or John Doe can't only go because he has the courage of Jane Doe coming with him. It's possible, and it's not necessarily going to be negative, but this is your sovereign choice to connect with the medicine. Now, if you're going with other people and they have this similar mentality, that could be remarkably beneficial. But you also want to take account a few other things. One, and God bless everybody out there, almost always when 6 people plan on going to ayahuasca, 0 people go. Because there's 6 adults who need to travel out of the country, be off their cell phones for a week. You just touch into a logistical nightmare. And I encourage you to, that if there is a group of people that wants to go, have like somebody that's anchoring that where people can also go, rather than that whole group have to make this decision. I've brought more people from the Western world to ayahuasca than probably anybody alive. The amount of 6 people groups I've ever seen be able to make it to an Integra ceremony, I can count them on one hand. And then you would want to ask yourself a few dynamics that you can add to that. One, do I feel comfortable being vulnerable in front of these people? Like, I'm super close with my mom. Do I feel like, is it the purest place for me to be fully vulnerable? I'm not sure. But there's other people in my life where I'm like, no, I'm good. You know what I mean? Doesn't matter what state I find myself in, good chance that person can hold the space. Also, are the people willing to let each other have their own experience? And going back to your question, I don't know of any integriously held ayahuasca circle in the world that would allow a first-time couple to sit next to each other until you've cut your teeth a little bit. The reason being is like we're entering a blended energy space where like I'm going to take some energy from you and you from me, and that's why all this cleanliness is necessary. And a great husband and a great wife are each other's caretaker. So what if Jane Doe needs to go through some stuff that John Doe can't help with, and vice versa? The reason we set them apart from each other is because they're awesome. It's because you have empathy and compassion and sympathy. And if a person's going through a beautiful time, you might be overly invested in that. Challenging time, you might be overly invested in that. So a little bit of physical space helps quite a bit. It's not something I encourage people to let go of completely. You don't want to let go of your relationship dynamics. But if you guys were all to come, or just 2 of you or 6, you're becoming as individuals who happen to know each other, rather than as a group going to ayahuasca. But if those dynamics are true, and as the primary person who screens me, if I feel that I'm bringing a couple in, I understand those dynamics, I get that feeling. They can share a room together if they want to. And every once in a while, by like ceremony 3, you know what I mean? Like maybe you can sit next to each other after you've like made yourself a little bit more comfortable to the space. There's not a one-stop shop answer on that, but I encourage you not to sit next to loved ones that you are the caretaker for, or that you are being care is taken of you, until you have a greater level of familiarity with the ceremony space.
Yeah. We do, I mean, at the group of 6 or 7 though, we do have the option to also host private retreats as well. So we always cap our group sizes at about 11 people or less. But if those 6 or 7 individuals that will still come as individuals choose to want to come as a group, we can facilitate that as a private group. So no additional members would join, and that would be a more tailored experience. You would chat with Daniel and Sarah, and it can be any date, any location, a lot more flexibility. But at 6 or 7, it's already a pretty large group.
And at that size, that's like, there's a size, you don't want too small of a group size too.
Yeah.
Right? Like so like 6 or 7 is a nice robust group of people. If you guys were coming together with us or somewhere else or whatever, that's a nice ceremonial group size if every one of those people have their own thoughtful intention to the process.
Ernest, how do those answers make you feel? He says thank you.
My pleasure, Ernest. And Ernest, if you are like the anchor of the group, I welcome you. There's always one anchor, like one person who's always like the pioneer. I welcome you to click the link in the chat thing if you want to schedule a one-on-one time to discuss more intricately based on you guys specifically.
And on the retreat side, say, for example, 7 men are coming, that vulnerable, we might take you to Temescal on the first day. That way, break you down a little bit, come out of Temescal and say, okay, we're going to ceremony together. We're going as brothers, coming out as brothers. But, yeah.
Cool. And then for I'm just pushing right into Maria's second question here. Whether it's private retreat or you come in as an individual to meet our group retreats, is there an integration program after our 7-day retreats, guys?
Would you like me to answer again?
Go for it.
Yes. So, but also I like to stress with this to everybody. Mindful and thoughtful planning of your time. It'll never be the perfect day, right? But if you leave an ayahuasca retreat on a Sunday and have to go to Las Vegas on a Monday, there's no integration program that's better than you just not doing that. Like actually giving yourself time to warm down from the experience. That being said, we have the leader of our care team, Chris, does integrative work with people when they leave. In the few weeks following, the team continues to check in. And then as a behold guest, you'd be a lifetime alumni. So we have monthly integration calls. There's not one fixed and fast program for everybody through that process. But then some people who want more additional one-on-one curated support can work with one of our private one-on-one coaches for a longer period of time. That would be more specific to them. But yeah, a few days after a retreat to chill out on a beach with a coconut and to work out and to eat good food, that's the number one thing that you could do for yourself, is not smashing your central nervous system up against the reality that you came from. The way that Walmart feels on Black Friday is way different than the ceremony feels. And you want to provide a gentle transition between those two spaces.
Yeah, and maybe we want to talk more specifically about, we have check-ins after 24 hours, like your retreat guide. What I'm trying to say is that we don't shut off our phones the moment you leave retreat. And this is, I think, from our alumni circle, our number one compliment, I guess you can call it, that we receive, that people didn't expect, that we're still in contact with everybody that even I've sat in my personal circles with. I'm still, chatting with them on WhatsApp. You guys will still have your WhatsApp group. But then all of us, your retreat facilitators, Daniel, Chris, who is coming after the retreat, we're all still here. We don't go anywhere. So while there is a more kind of structured check-in program, which maybe you guys also want to touch on, I just want to kind of in the background also say that that we're not going anywhere after your retreat. And us as Behold employees and caretakers and space holders, and also your personal retreat circle, who we've seen time after time, after week, form lifelong bonds between these 7 people, and it's just the most beautiful thing ever.
And I think what you just said is more valuable, Andra. There is structured integration work, but this is familial work at a point, right? Like we take a lot of care into deciding whether or not we're going to invite somebody with love, right? I have a pretty critical line. So when someone's there, they're supposed to be there. And it becomes like an automatic decompression. Maybe not automatic, but very quickly transitions into a familial process. So like sometimes when a guest is having a problem, doesn't call me, like, how dare you not call me? Like we're friends. You know what I mean? It's not, it becomes, I guess there is some element of business in this, but that particular part is not a business relationship. Like it will likely feel very obvious to any one of our guests that there's 7 different open lines as they're going through that process. And that feeling is, I think, what benefits more than anything. Even more than just knowing, you know what I mean, that the support's there.
Yeah, and the relatability, the relatability of a process that was very deep. The other people that you were sitting next to in ceremony can relate to you, and you can relate to them. And so as you're going back into your real world, and we talk about this in some of the integration conversations about how to speak about your experience, or how not to speak about your experience, or who to open up to and in what ways, when it may become, I want to speak with somebody that knows what I'm talking about. Your group is there and we are there.
Thanks for the question.
Yeah.
And she's got one more regarding the location of our retreats, and do we host in New York City?
No, nothing in the United States. We host in Costa Rica, Mexico, and Portugal. And there's a link right there that you can see all the locations.
All the locations, all the dates, and yeah, we just encourage you to do your research about the legality of plant medicines in the U.S. and whether you feel comfortable partaking in something like that in New York City, which feels like a lot of stimulus, if you ask me. So yeah, our locations around Tulum in Mexico. We will, maybe Clara also wants to post the link there. Our location in Mexico is really cool. It's very, very, very beautiful in person and in the photos. The space in and of itself is gorgeous, but it's also very aesthetically beautiful on the East Coast there.
Varied in the general sometimes when they're specific. The first one you said is a serious one. High blood pressure is a serious contraindication with ayahuasca. Typically not blood pressure medication, but blood pressure itself. You should never sit with ayahuasca if your blood pressure is over 139 over 89. Now, when it comes to different herbs and things of that nature, I've never heard of a person who was allergic to ayahuasca, regardless if they have other like environmental allergies. But there are several other contraindications. You can break them down in a few easy categories. Also, a big contraindication is if somebody doesn't actually want to go to an ayahuasca ceremony. So all this assumes intent, right? Because it's such a powerful experience, assuming somebody was intended going to a safe place. The first thing you want to take a look at is medication. And that's what slows a lot of people down. Of the medications that are prohibited, about 98% of that is what I would call psychoactive medications. Antidepressants, mood stimulants, heavy sleep aids like trazodone. Trazodone, which many people even on this call might take, is technically an antipsychotic, but it's used to help people sleep. So people are using medicines they don't even know are psychoactive. And then you would have medicines that I would class as narcotics, like opiates, Xanax, Percocets, things of this nature. Of those two categories, that accounts for about 98%. There are other things, like sometimes a beta blocker. Also, there's general info, but a person might have their own specific chemistry. So everybody should be looked at specifically. For example, like testosterone replacement therapy, not contraindicative. The abuse of testosterone, slamming needles in your neck like Arnold Schwarzenegger, could very well be dangerous, right? It depends on how you're using that. So first pharmaceuticals, then recreational substances. Recreational substances could do anything, and it depends on what they are and your level of ingestion, to muddy or dampen your experience or kill you. Neither one of which is a good thing, right? So if a person was on Xanax, for example, Xanax, you can't, if you're addicted to Xanax, you couldn't even just stop taking Xanax. You have to taper off. Similar to when people are so deeply addicted to alcohol, they can't stop that either. Now, if they were taking ayahuasca at that time when they shouldn't even just be off the Xanax, now they're going to be purging. That's become super dangerous. When another person might just take a Xanax twice a month when they take a flight, and it still needs to be out of their system, but it's a lot less serious because we're talking about something to them, specific to them. So medications and street drugs, including alcohol, which by all indications is a drug. Then looking at your physical body, don't take this as gospel. I'm speaking generally. We would do it like an in-depth analysis if we invited you to a retreat. But you want to take a look at a few key areas first. First, your brain health, and not your psychology, your actual brain health. Have you recently had any significant concussions, blackouts, vertigo, head injuries from years past that are still troubling you now? If your hardware is malfunctioning, it's not necessarily the best time to insert new software into that hardware. The typical standard is 1 year without significant symptom. Heart condition is a big one too. I'm not a scientist or a doctor, but we're taking in large doses of energy here, right? So if the physical body was not stable enough cardiologically to process that energy, that would be dangerous. Someone's hypertensive, bunch of recent heart surgeries, things of that nature. Other stuff could be benign, like if somebody has a murmur. Then you want to take a look at general organ health. These things could be either individually prohibited or maybe just something to be mindful of, like if there's a lot of kidney and liver malfunction and things of that nature, lung malfunction. Then you also want to take a look at a few other, maybe more obscure things like mobility. Like you don't need to be hypermobile and do cartwheels to go to an ayahuasca ceremony, but depending on where you're going, you want to make sure you can move around the land reasonably. Some people go to ayahuasca ceremonies in the deep jungle, which would require a significant higher amount of physical aptitude than coming to our place, which is like pretty flat and even. Like we could take a guest who was in a wheelchair, but never without knowing. So we can always understand whether or not we can help them traverse the land. Now, after that psychological state, which is its own independent category, I'm also not a psychiatrist, but there are plenty of people who should never be going to ayahuasca based on pre-existing psychological conditions, specifically mania, like schizophrenia, things of this nature. Plenty of people, and I would say half the people who go to ayahuasca around the world have some diagnosable psychological, like depression, anxiety, PTSD. This is very normal for us. But when you start to actually lose touch with what I would call consensus reality, that is a danger where if a person was, say, like pre-schizophrenic or schizophrenic, a person shouldn't even be smoking cannabis or drinking alcohol. It remarkably enhances a lot of those negative experiences. So hopefully that answers your question. Drugs, both pharmaceutical and street drugs, stay to your physical body, especially your brain and your heart, and your psychological state. And in those few categories lies all the contraindications.
Daniel, for somebody that might have been a lot of information, can you tell us the first couple steps that somebody would go through before onboarding so that they would know that they're taken care of and all of their questions meet those criteria?
So, well, there's a lot of nuance to a conversation with somebody because we get to feel each other out as well. If I was to break it down into 4 critical points that we're going through that need to be true, first, is a person independently motivated and called to the medicine. I will never tell any one of you guys should go to ayahuasca. That energy needs to come from you guys, and we get to guardian that, like honorably guardian that, not say, hey, you should do this, it's going to change your life. That's a weird one to feel because sometimes that feels like a great feeling, sometimes it feels scary, but it's independent to you. That criteria exists in its own category. Without that thing being true, all of the other criteria are just theoretical philosophy, dinner table talk. But if it is true, then the absolute and first most important thing becomes your health, safety, and well-being. And that would be the first thing that was addressed after there was a determination that this is something somebody wanted for themselves. And what I do is, I'm more restrictive than most doctors, I would say, but what I do is a pretty comprehensive preliminary assessment with people. And if everything else is right and we're going to invite them to a retreat, then we're going to put them to nursing screening too, which is a bit more technical. So are you called? Are you of a state of readiness, of mind, body, and spirit, where this work that could be challenging doesn't even come close to approximating something that's dangerous? Danger is super easy to avoid. Next thing is the practical things that we go over. All right, you want to come to an ayahuasca retreat, you're physically capable of doing that and preparing. When are you practically capable of doing that? When can you be off the phone for the week? For example, we have a retreat on January 4th. And there's diet for 2 weeks before a retreat. There's abstinence from substances even a bit longer than that. So that means everybody coming to January 4th is not going to be eating whatever they want on Christmas Day. And is that something that feels good to them? And no drinks on New Year's, right? Or, well, we don't take people's phones from them. Ours is not the kind of place where you can be doing business calls and stuff. Check in on the dog, there's a kid, we get it. A little bit of check in here and there, sure. Sucked into your phone, trading crypto, no. And when is that possible in your life? That barring extenuating circumstances, that you can actually do that. Do you have a passport, right? Like, this is when like motivation starts, like when the rubber starts to hit the road. Rule of thumb is this: are you motivated and capable to prioritize the time? Not just one or the other. And then I look at that, I'll call that all practicalities. Do the practicalities align and you're motivated towards those things? And then it's what I call shared understandings. We learn a lot through a conversation when we talk to each other, but there could be things that a person needs to know are there to take care of them that might not be obvious. Like they might have just lost a loved one, or they might need a CPAP machine, or they might be allergic to sunflower seeds or whatever, right? And a person should always have the opportunity to vocalize those needs on their end and make sure that nothing get lost in the sauce. And I always like to give people an opportunity to talk through that. On my end, we have very firm codes of conduct. And I like to make sure crystal clear that people are aligned with those things. They understand the nuances of those. Those things make them feel good. Not that just they're willing to sign off on a waiver form, but they kind of get it. And if all of that stuff is in alignment, your motivation, your readiness, the practicalities, and our shared understandings, under those circumstances, we offer invitation. And it's never done haphazardly.
Brian, how did we completely answer your question?
Yeah, that's good.
Thanks for asking, Brian.
Cool. Well, we've got another 12 minutes, guys. These are some really, really good questions and some even better answers. So I would love to keep the questions coming in. If not, I might have a question of my own and we can continue. Andrea is asking, where in Costa Rica do we meet?
Yeah, so our location is about, depending on traffic, it could be an hour and a half from the airport up to 2.5 hours. And so the main airport is in the central Costa Rica, in the center of Costa Rica. And then you would drive towards the beach to a town named Jaco, and then about 45 minutes more south. So we are on the Pacific side, ocean. It's an ocean view, really beautiful. The background of our retreat center is a beautiful jungle hike. Each of the rooms that people are in are very cozy, comfortable, beautiful views. And so it's called Esterios. Esterios, Costa Rica is where we have them.
And to double on that, most of our guests coming from the States arrive on the day that the retreat begins, and we have a private driver waiting for you at the airport with the sign with your name on it. There could be some we also take you back at the end of the retreat. Periodically, guests decide to come into the country a little bit early. I encourage everybody here, if you're going to an ayahuasca retreat and you're rationing time, if you're coming from the States, you're probably going to find more value staying in country later than coming early because you get some more integration time. But some of our guests do come early. We have a handful of recommended places for them to stay before they come to us, depending on how long, and then we'll send a driver to that place to pick them up on the day the retreat begins.
Yeah, and I've posted the Costa Rica link there. It's so beautiful. It's so far my favorite property, and it's really high end, really peaceful, and just the energy there once you step foot on the premises is is just spectacular, and also the food's delicious. But don't go there for the food. Yeah.
It's legitimate. Like, I know I'm a representative of Behold, but like, look at the truth on my face. It's legitimately like a step away from being too nice. You don't want to drink ayahuasca at the Ritz-Carlton. That would spoil your experience. It's too nice. There has to be like an element of organic nature and vibe in the air. But the Costa Rica location is as nice as it could possibly be before it crosses that line.
Yeah. I have found with sitting in ceremony for a lot of us that the safer we are, the deeper we can go in ceremony. And so if that is something that you also find true to be true to yourself, then these are the style of retreats that we hold. When people arrive, they come in knowing that they are well held. From the first call with Daniel to meeting with guest services, Chris, safety is one of our most important things that we work on. And then we go through a deep process in ceremony. And then after that ceremony, to then say, have the elements to regulate our central nervous system. And so after ceremony, not everybody feels good going into a dorm style space to be in the jungle. While we have a jungle background, there's a difference between being in a ceremony space in which you feel physically safe. And then after ceremony to say, it is important to me that I have a hot shower, that I can turn on central air conditioning, that I can get into the privacy of my own space and have a good night's sleep. And then to wake up in the morning, greet everybody that you went to ceremony with, have that time for processing and expression and getting back either through discussion with a facilitator, discussion with your group, the saltwater pool, taking a hike in nature, preparing yourself to go into ceremony again. And so, and that's not just Costa Rica, that's all of the locations to say, I'm going to do deep work, and then I'm going to have the space in which I can regulate so that I can go and do deep work again. And as we go through a retreat, maybe 2, maybe 3, depending on the person, our discomfort expands. And so maybe one day I will be ready to go sit in the jungle. But for those of us that need to have that privacy space and knowing that that space with facilitators and the group is there, that is one of the reasons people would choose Behold to go to retreats, is that safety element.
I think that's the premier thing, is safety is the gateway to surrender.
Yeah.
Like, nobody should ever have to tell you, hey man, you're safe. Like, that's automatically a time to like raise your red flags up. It's moreover, create, even if it's not with us, create an environment for yourself that when you're asking that existential question in the space, like, what am I even doing here? Who are these people? You can honestly answer that question based on actions you actually took. Oh, hold on, I didn't just randomly show up here. I had to jump through 75 hoops to get here. I dieted for 2 weeks before. I had to be invited to come into this space. I took time off. What you see all the intention around it. Sure, I don't know every one of these people's every detail of their life, but I've become generally familiarized, oriented. I get it. Like, none of these people are going to kick my dog. I understand where the boundaries are. And if you create a practical reality of safety for yourself, that touches the ethereal realms. Because why would you ever let go if you weren't safe? You know what I mean? Like, letting go is challenging enough already. But if there's chaos around it, some shiftiness around it, or I don't know, a nail sticking out of the floorboard or whatever. Right? But like Sarah was saying as well, perhaps one day you stabilize yourself with that vibration of transcending through realities. And then it's a lot less big of an emotional challenge to go Indiana Jones style into the jungle. You know what I mean? And you can do a great night of work on a dirty towel in the middle of a jungle with one candle. Like, if that's what, ayahuasca is going to meet where it meets. And if that's what's necessary to create surrender.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can give you like a basic range. So most of our retreats, if you're having like a private room and a private bathroom, are going to be in the realm of $7,500 per person for a week-long ayahuasca retreat. It's slightly less expensive in Mexico because it's pretty limited there, but we offer a shared room option there also, which drops the price by $2,000. And we only ever do 2 rooms, so one will be for males, one are females, so you'd be with one other roommate, super well vetted, right? And that reduces the cost by $2,000. And then we have a few other retreats, like Like we can Bufo retreats. It's more like the 4.5 range or so. But with us, if it's going to be ayahuasca, you're probably looking at like 55 to 7,500. And with us, everything is included. It's with distinctly the separation of two specific things. Flights are not included. And even though we're technically allowed to do this, like in Costa Rica, we don't sell medicine. This is like a philosophical thing. It's not for legal reasons, even though we always stick inside these legal boundaries. Medicine is not a commodity. No one's going to ask you for a tip for it or a donation. You're paying for the work around it. And we also reserve the right not to serve somebody ayahuasca. It's never something I think we've had to do, but it's not something being bought and sold. When you're at the spaces themselves, they're super non-transactional. Nobody's going to try to sell you anything. There's almost nothing you can buy, even if you really wanted to. You can buy like shamanic artwork from the local tribes, additional massage, personal laundry service for your private clothes, like $30. It's kind of nominal stuff. And then if you're planning on coming to any one of our, like Mexico or Costa Rica, even Portugal, if you're coming early or staying late, budget yourself like $250 a day. That's usually about all you need. It's 125, 150 for a very nice place to stay. The rest for food and walking around money. If you're spending more than that, it's completely unnecessary. It's like, it's a time to relax. It's not a time for jet skis. It's not a time for overwhelming your system. So most of our guests are able to do it for less than that, even if they traditionally spend more when they travel. Hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, Maria, let us know if that covered all the bases. We'll take that as a
Yeah. Cool.
cool. Ashi says yes, thank you. All right, guys. Well, that is perfect timing. Again, Daniel's link to the completely Maria says she spoke, but nobody could hear her. Yeah, all good, all good. Again, the discovery call with Daniel link is pinned in the chat. It's completely complimentary. It's not, he won't force you into anything, I promise. But it's more just to again discover your readiness level and for him to gauge how ready you are, for you to gauge how ready you are. And again, to dig one step deeper into the retreat location or plant medicine, and potentially take one further step forward in your journey.
A few points to make the best of this. Like, it's best to have a discovery call, and this doesn't need to be with Behold. When you have like a level of motivation that under the right circumstances, you'd like to attend a retreat within 12 or 6 months. Sorry. Like every once in a while longer, but 6 months is a sweet spot. I often don't invite people to retreats that are more than 6 months away for two reasons. One, you could be an astronaut in 6 months. And two, it's often, even though people are happy to pay and stuff, I don't feel comfortable taking their money, because it's like the idea of joining the gym on January 1st. You're kind of looking for a backdoor out by creating such a long time out. I could be convinced otherwise in some cases, but I encourage you to think about that. Also, I typically don't do more than one person in a call at a time. So if it's like a friend or a wife who wants to come, I never share with any human being ever, under any circumstances, any of the contents of the conversations. So when we have a third party in, it ruins an individual's ability to be totally free, open, and clear. So if it was the case of somebody wanting to come with some friends, what I do is I talk to them first individually, and if they still want to have a call as a group, we can do that. Yeah, feel free. Also, there's zero context necessary for questions you might have here or in a conversation. It might feel wrong, like, what do I pack is a reasonable question. Or like, what does it cost? It doesn't always have to be about spirit. Like, what's the airport? Common questions we get. So your questions don't need to, in a call with me or in this call, fit outside of roughly being related to an ayahuasca retreat. They don't need to fit any kind of specific context, and they probably have more importance than you know.
Awesome. Gang, thank you so much, Behold team. Ernest, Maria, Brian, Andrea, thank you everybody for your questions and your participation. Everybody on the call, if I missed anybody, we can't wait to eventually meet each and every one of you. And we send our love and we wish everybody a good night.